We would like to acknowledge the ancestors, elders, and families of the Wurundjeri and Woiwurrung peoples of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional owners and custodians of university land. As we share our own knowledge practices within the university, may we pay respect to the deep knowledge embedded within the Aboriginal community and their ownership of country. Please be advised that this video discusses traumatic historical experiences of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and sensitive topics. Viewer discretion is advised.
There are various health concerns surrounding the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. This video will focus on one of the most common factors, which is drug and alcohol addiction used in Aboriginal people living in Victoria at the age of 16 to 25 years old. It all started in the 18th century when the British colonizers first introduced Western alcohol to the First Nation peoples. These forced labor are mostly paid with alcohol and drugs, which lead to another bad source of addiction. This habit still continues until nowadays, where young Aboriginal people consume it illegally. Aboriginal peoples who often consume alcohol and drugs are 1.2 times more likely to harm than non-Indigenous people. This is due to an uncontrolled amount of consumption, which has resulted in a very high rate of serious health disadvantages. There are three types of drug that is often used by the Indigenous people, which is marijuana, cannabis, and hashish. Health concern. This is a very serious matter which has led to several health disadvantages. The addiction of alcohol and drug will cause brain damage, which means a brain cell disorder that changes an individual's character. This could lead to various individuals and third-party health concern. As for individual health concern, it includes liver and kidney disease, heart problem, cancer, and suicide. On the other hand, third parties' health concern are affected by individuals' mental or behavior disorder, assault, and traffic accident.
To begin with, look at the graph by AOD Stats. It shows the amount of alcohol, illicit, and pharmaceutical drug that is used in Victoria. Next, let's talk about the percentages of the drugs consumed by Indigenous Australians. While looking at the graph, in non-remote areas such as major cities, inner and outer regional areas combined, 29% of Indigenous Australians aged 15 and over used drugs or other substances in 2018 to 2019. And in remote areas such as remote and very remote areas combined, the proportion was 27%. Indigenous males aged 15 and over had higher rates of recent substance use than Indigenous females, percentage in 37% compared with 22%.
The cause of drug and alcohol use in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders aging 16 to 25 years old are caused by many factors, but historical and sociological factors mainly affects the consumption of them. There are three historical factors that affects them. Firstly, colonization. Colonization done in 1788 caused great damage to the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islanders, as they did not only lose their land to the British, but it caused the introduction to new substances and alcohol, which impacts the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islanders community to conduct substance and alcohol misuse. Second, stolen generations. Stolen generations are named after the children who were forcibly removed from their parents back in the 1780s until the 1800s due to the government policies that must be followed. This caused children to be unable to live with their biological family, placing them in homes with non-Indigenous families. They then mostly face abuse, creating an intergenerational trauma. Third, intergenerational trauma. It's like an emotional trauma passed on from one generation to the other due to massacres, forced removal, and racism, creating a lasting anxiety and low esteem in 16 to 25-year-old Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people to end up consuming alcohol and drugs. Next up, sociological factors. There are 5 of them. Firstly, lack of education. As they are unable to receive proper education, it causes lower job opportunities, leading to unemployment. Secondly, unemployment causes them to create no income, resulting in poverty. Thirdly, poverty increases stress, creating mental issues as they feel hopeless with no purpose. Feeling hopeless and no purpose causes identity loss, which it arises as they are far from what their culture teaches them. With no money, no education, no cultural identity and support, as well as limited access to healthcare, leaves their mental health untreated, making it more severe, thus the addition to racism, where racism back in the days until now is still occurring. People ranging the age of 16 to 25 years old faces inequality everywhere, whether it's in school, public places, or work environment. This results in discrimination wherever they go, increasing the vulnerability of substance use over the time as their coping mechanism.
What works and what doesn't work for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders' health? What doesn't work is government policies that do not highlight Aboriginal people's perspectives and voices, such as the Closing the Gap Agreement in 2008. It was unsuccessful in meeting its targets due to the lack of partnership and involvement of Aboriginal people. Health institutions based on Western frameworks and ignorance to Indigenous people's ways and doings display institutional racism and build barriers for Indigenous peoples to receive appropriate care. Solely focusing on the clinical aspect of health and neglecting social determinants is unfitting for Indigenous people. Lack of education, unemployment, poor housing, stress, and trauma are real problems they experience, and undermining these determinants highlights the inequality of health systems. In addition to that, poor communication, such as lack of translation and practitioner-centered terminologies, further impede Aboriginal patients. So, what works for Indigenous people's health? Aboriginal health is not individualistic. It highlights the social, emotional, and cultural aspect of the community's well-being. Thus, health must be approached in a holistic view, centered on community ownership and control, emphasize Aboriginal culture and knowledge, and include Indigenous people's input. One of the strategies deemed as successful for Aboriginal people's health is Balit Murup, an Aboriginal social and emotional well-being framework developed by the Victorian government. The framework displays that an individual's well-being is highly intertwined with connection to body, mind, community, culture, country, and spirituality. Aboriginal health needs to be put in Aboriginal hands. Community-led organizations such as Aboriginal community-controlled health organizations are the key solutions in providing health services as they embrace Aboriginal culture, self-determination, reconnection, and healing. These communities implement Indigenous knowledge and encourage First Nations people to take charge of their own health. In terms of communication, clinical yarning seems to be a promising strategy due to its patient-centered and comprehensible approach for Indigenous patients.
One of the programs is Bunjilwara Kuri Alcohol and Drug Healing Service. It is a purpose-built facility, meaning that it is specially designed to support rehabilitation and healing of young Aboriginal people with alcohol and drug problems. It is a 12-bed residential rehabilitation focusing on people ages 16 to 25 years old. Located in Hastings, Victoria, it is served by a team of Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal staff and is available 24 hours every day. They are in partnerships with Victorian Aboriginal Health Service, Youth Support and Advocacy Service, and Victorian Aboriginal Community Controlled Health Organization. Why are they considered successful? Bunjilwara service model has a foundation of Aboriginal divine notion of healing within a cultural framework. This means that they provide clinical and culturally safe rehabilitation programs that respect Aboriginal ways of healing to overcome alcohol and drug use. They also offer safe environment where young Aboriginal people are able to improve life skills, gain confidence, build social networks, and help them get back on track in daily life. Their success are also linked to the use of frameworks such as trauma-informed practice, where staff understands trauma within a historical context and respond with care, youth growth and support, where they focus on young Aboriginal within a therapeutic community where they support one another, recovery framework, where they focus on long-term healing and overall well-being. What actually makes them effective? Bunjilwara uses key principles to guide them, such as embedding Aboriginal culture in service models, which helps young Aboriginals reconnect with their culture, focusing on healing physical and holistic health, including social, emotional, and spiritual well-being through therapies and other cares. Person-centered and recovery-oriented means they focus on providing every resident's needs and recognizing the importance of family and community involvement to support recovery. Clinical effectiveness means they use strong clinical programs delivered by professionals to address alcohol and drug issues, trauma, and manage overall health. Since Aboriginal people see family as part of their overall health, family involvement means that healing happens together, not alone. They provide continuum of care, ensuring support services continue even after their discharge. Lastly, they use evidence-based practices from Aboriginal-led services like VOS and YSAS. Moreover, one of the Bunjilwara staff, Brooke, a Palawa woman, states that lots of young people who joined this rehabilitation felt a sense of guidance from elders and spiritual connection.
Thank you for listening and have a great day.